Welcome back to another episode of Ate Bakla, Paano Ka Ginawa? So for today's episode, we would like to share our 2 cents lang. And I'm very excited kasi we have here Nicole, Vince, and Danielle to share their 2 cents of the topics that we are going to be discussing today. So from our last on-site podcast episode, we have talked about the general background of gender representation and its importance in politics. So before we start with our actual podcast, I would like to ask Danielle, ano yung mga gusto mong i-share sa mga, like based on your understanding from our last episode, would you like to share anything?
Yes, Sean, actually, before our session, yung tumatak talaga sa akin is yung naging representation of women in terms of films. Kasi it was brought up doon sa naging session was the films of Barbie and Harley Quinn. And sobrang tumatak lang siya sa akin kasi it really speaks about the representation of womanhood, how people view women in society, and of course yung mga expectations that's always brought upon them. And I really feel like for today's podcast episode, it's really important to broaden our horizons kung ano pa yung pwede natin ma-discuss regarding that topic.
I agree, Danielle. And speaking of widening our horizons, we have here Vince and Nicole to share their thoughts and to define ano nga ba ang first topic natin, which is SOGIE-SC and its importance.
Before we learn the basics of SOGIE-SC, kailangan muna natin alamin the foundation behind how the word was built. Kasi, dati SOGIE lang yan eh. Ngayon kasi SOGIE-SC na, so may dumagdag. We also need to find or to discuss behind its current meaning and its overall importance.
Tama ka dyan, sis. And like the majority. Like the majority, hindi nila alam na natagdagan na yung term. For almost all of us, at least, alam nila yung term is SOGIE. But now, it is now SOGIE-SC.
So I think this will be a great way for everyone to know how the term has evolved, pati na rin ang meaning behind ito.
So, although it may be confusing at first, the basics of SOGIE-SC and its contemporary situation here in the Philippines is more than enough to keep the ball rolling in reaching our goal, which is intersectional.
With that being said, what is SOGIE-SC and why is it important?
Okay, for starters, tara, breakdown! Charis, tara! Here's the breakdown of the term presented by Vince.
Okay, so first, makinig kayo mabuti. So first, SOGIE-SC is composed of 4 words. The first component is SO, which means shout out. Which means social, not social. Sexual orientation. The second is GI, which means gender identity. Nicole?
Gets naman, pero hold up. Hold up. We won't be discussing their meanings just yet. Later pa yun, at that. So, the next term would be gender expression, and the last one, or the latest addition to the term is SC, which is screen capture, which is sexual characteristics. So, Vince, can you give us a quick rundown again? Yung walang jokes there, yung very serious.
Okay, sorry. Okay, sige. SO, which means sexual orientation. GI, which means gender identity. GE, which means gender expression. And lastly, the new addition, SC, which means sexual characteristics. Ngayon, alam na natin meaning, or rather the words behind these acronyms. Let us discuss to why all of these 4 words are important, especially in trying to understand gender and sexuality spectrum.
So, medyo serious mode talaga tayo for now. So, why is SOGIE-SC actually important? Well, for one, SOGIE-SC fights for the equality or rights of all. Yes, tama yung narinig mo. SOGIE-SC is for all. So, hindi lang talaga siya for people who are marginalized like the LGBTQIA plus community. Very important yung plus, so never forget about that. So, SOGIE-SC champions the genders and sexes of all, stating that there is enough space and labels for everyone. So, there is no exclusion among and between genders. Everyone is accepted. And there is no space for determining which sex is superior, which genders are acceptable. Because here in SOGIE-SC, there is a place and label for everyone.
So basically, apart from the prospective influence of knowledge, especially para sa ating mga kababayan na hindi pa nila alam kung ano nga ba ang SOGIE-SC talaga, ang SOGIE-SC ay nagsisimbolo ng advokasya para sa pagkapantay-pantay na turing sa isa't isa. It puts forth the idea of living in equality and the freedom to freely express oneself that is truly ours.
Hindi ko yung kinaya. So, bibigyan ko kayo ng Tagalog. So, ang SOGIE-SC, ang ibig sabihin niya ay kasama ang lahat para sa lahat. That's SOGIE-SC, a tool, an ideology, and an initiative that accepts and welcomes everyone, no matter what sex, gender, and identity one may be. Tao rin naman tayo lahat at the end of the day. Medyo hindi ako sure sa katabi ko. Tao tayo lahat at the end of the day. And a person's SOGIE-SC shouldn't limit one's humanity. So, hashtag equality for all, right?
Ano ba? SOGIE-SC is a good thing. So why are people still against it? I think there is a need to emphasize
Yeah.
that SOGIE-SC covers all human beings. It does not and it will not be used to promote gender or the exclusion of genders and discrimination against a certain sex or gender.
So with all the heavy talk, the listeners or all of us might be wondering or slightly confused about the words that we use. Especially the use of sex and gender in our conversation. Kasi until now, from all age groups, confused pa rin sila ano yung sex and gender. So let me just clarify. Sex is what you have or what is your sex assignment at birth. So it's either you're male or female. Tapos for gender, it refers to one's identity. So pwedeng maging male or female in identity or how you present yourself. So sex is inherent and gender depends on you. So I think that's just for today's discussion at least. So it might really be confusing, especially when we're very much used to interchanging these terms or words with each other. And sometimes even use only one of these to mean other things.
Exactly. But as SOGIE-SC suggests, katulad nga nasabi mo kanina, sex and gender aren't the same thing. They are two completely different things. But as its characteristics or defining identities. So without further ado, let's head on to discussing the key components of SOGIE-SC. Okay, ako din yan. So we'll provide you a brief introduction to key components of SOGIE-SC. First is SO, which means sexual orientation. When we say SO kasi, these mean kung kanino ka rather na-attract or who you are attracted to. For example, ako kasi I am attracted to the same sex. Natatawa kasi ako pag sorry guys, kasi disclaimer lang, natatawa talaga ako kapag we're talking about my gender or something like that.
Your sexual orientation.
Yes. And my gender as well. Nakakatawa kasi. So yung tinatanong ng sexual orientation is who you are attracted to. So ako, katulad nga nasabi ko kanina, I am attracted to a man. So that makes me yung tinatawag nilang gay. It's not the same thing if ako attracted ako sa babae kasi like I wouldn't even imagine that happening kasi that makes me a heterosexual person or yung tinatawag nila na straight. Okay, moving on, we have the gender identity. Pag gender identity naman, ang tinatanong nito is, what do you see yourself as? Kasi, usually, ang gender identity natin, for the majority, kung ano ang na-assign sa atin na sexual orientation, sexual characteristic at birth, yun na yung gender identity natin, which is male. Pero kasi merong mga instances, and there are other mga other kaibigan natin from the queer community na nag-iiba talaga ang gender identity nila. This is what we call transgenders, mga transgender male or females. Ito yung mga kunwari na-assign sila at birth na male, pero throughout their life experiences or something other than life experiences, nag-iiba sila ng gender identity o nag-iiba yung tingin nila sa sarili nila. And that's perfectly valid and normal.
True.
And yung tawag pala sa akin kanina is cisgender. Hindi SIS CIS. CIS
Cis.
gender. So, yung cisgender, what that means is that kung ano ang na-assign sa'yo nung pagkilabas mo, ano ka, infant? Baby?
When you were a baby or your sex assigned at birth,
Ayun. Yun pa rin yung gender identity mo ngayon. So, since ako, I was assigned male at birth, and ngayon, ang identity ko is still male, still male, that makes me a cisgender male or cis male ang tawag nila. Moving on, we have the gender expression. Ito naman, ang gender expression, ang tinatanong niya, how do you present yourself to not just other people, but to yourself as well? Kasi, kung ako, male ako, ang gender identity ko ay male. Ang gender expression ko, pwede mag-iba. Of how I present myself, pwedeng babae ako ganyan.
ay, sige.
Pwedeng masculine. Hindi ko kaya. Sorry. Hindi ko kaya yun. Kasi ako, medyo feminine ako. So, may girly-girly, ganyan. Pero, it does not just cover that aspect kasi. When we talk about gender expression, it has something to do with the clothes that you're wearing. Parang yung body language mo, kung paano ka magsalita, the tone of your voice.
So, how you present yourself.
Kaya nga, yun nga, sabi ko.
And,
Tapos,
Yeah, tama naman.
ayun, pero usually kasi, we will be discussing that later part na, pero meron mga iba talaga na porket, you know, medyo malamya, akala na nila, bakla, gano'n.
Yeah.
Eh, that's a big misconception. That's a big no-no. I'm talking about sobriety.
Ano lang, gusto ko lang siguro magdagdag. Kasi di ba you mentioned na yung gender expression tama. Parang, it's kind of like a spectrum from what I understood. And very important lang din na ma-share natin sa ating mga online audience or anyone listening to this podcast na yung gender expression, it's not, parang hindi siya constant. Very dynamic siya. And for me, example, ako kasi, pareho kami ni Vince na cisgender man na mahilig na attracted din sa mga kapwa lalaki. The difference lang siguro sa amin is that I identify myself as gender fluid. So what does that mean? Is that minsan gusto ko i-express yung gender identity ko, gusto ko medyo masculine and sometimes or majority of the time gusto ko naman medyo girly. So parang ayun nga, katulad ng sinabi ni Vince kanina about parang gender identity or anything related to our SOGSC, it's very valid and I feel na it's very important din na ma-raise natin yun na hindi lang dapat natin ina-allow yung or binabox yung sarili natin sa single part ng spectrum. So, ayun.
tama ka dyan, sis. And then, just to add to what you said, kaya hindi siya set on stone or pwede siya mag-iba. That's why we call SOGSC as a spectrum. So, talagang subject to change siya however or whenever you want it to be. So, you are in control. So, yeah.
Akala ulit, no? So, last, yung bagong edition natin sa SOGSC, or SOG before ngayon, SOGSC na, which is sexual characteristics. So, when we talk about sexual characteristics, these are the biological components of a human being. More on science na kasi ito eh, so, medyo mahina ka sa science. Basta pagkakalam ko lang, sexual characteristics based on my research. Ito yung mga chromosomes inside our body. Kasi, you know, I think this should be a general knowledge na, no? Pero, yung bilang ng X and Y chromosomes ay iba for females and males. Tapos,
Biology.
ano yun? Nag-differ din tayo ng sexual characteristics when talking about the reproductive system. Kasi sa lalaki, iba ang reproductive system nila. At sa babae, iba din ang reproductive system nila. So yun.
Reproductive system.
Sige, mamaya. Later na.
Okay. Exit. So, kung iisipin nyo or kung nalaman nyo na dun sa 4 components na yun, gano'n lang siya kadali intindihin. Pero for someone na baguhan pa lang sa mga nakakaintindi nito, medyo very complex pa siya na isipin talaga.
Actually.
Parang, add ko lang ako na pag sinabing one person is a lesbian, sabihin, so, can you expect a lesbian, masculine din mag-present.
Oo.
Tapos pag sinabing gay, pag-girly din.
Oo.
Hindi naman talaga ganun, di ba? So that's really one of the reasons why SOGSC is important. So we don't offend people or
Yes.
keep them in labels, sabi nga ni Sean kanina. So, yeah, that's one of the reasons bakit kami nakaupo ngayon in the girl court. Besides na fact na, shoutout sa'yo, Ma'am Zen. Ayun.
Yeah, I actually just want to add then. Earlier, Sean said na it's really important that we don't box ourselves in specific traditions sa culture natin in society. And yung thought ko lang dito is, which will also be delved on mamaya sa gender expression, is that we should really abolish. Yung mga thoughts about how we expect people to act. Kasi ito yung nakikita natin sa kanila, kaya dapat ganito sila. So, ang thought ko dito is that we should really remove these kinds of sentiments, these kinds of judgments towards other people kasi it can really get very dangerous, lalo na if we want to live in a society that really advocates for peace, for equality, for inclusivity. Kaya dapat mawala na talaga ito.
Bogs, Miss Universe.
Siguro I would like to add then na
Hindi nalabatan.
Hindi, kasi parang naalala ko, parang whenever parang, kasi I grew up in a very male-dominated na environment. And kadalasan kasi, I expose myself to a lot of queer content, majority of which includes, includes trans girls. And for some reason kasi I really love trans girls. Regardless kung gaano kaganda or gaano, I think we'll dive into gaano kasikip.
Ako yun!
Hindi,
Ay,
parang,
hindi po ako trans. Just to clarify.
ayun, so parang regardless kung ano yung expression ng trans girlies natin, I find them really admirable. But kadalasan kasi I share to my family na, ito trans to, ang ganda Parang ang lagi niyang sinasabi, lalaki yan, gano'n. So parang ayun nga, in relation to what Daniela said, parang very important na matanggal natin yung mga labels
Agree.
na nababox natin yung sarili.
Grabe, napaka-sexist ng aso. So, sorry po. So,
Because I think they actually agree. Kanina pa sila na.
Ay, true. Joke lang. Nakaway.
Okay
Sorry.
guys, okay, without further ado, so ganun lang kadali yun, okay? To provide further knowledge, we're also going to have to deep dive on this topic. So listen carefully so that you would know the nuances between and among these 4 words.
Wow. Nuance. Big word. But you are absolutely right, Vin. So, GSC does have a lot of nuances. So, by the end of this podcast, we hope that magigets ng audience, even the people here around us, the ins and outs of SOGSC. So, to start us off, the first term that comprises SOGSC is, as mentioned before, is sexual orientation. Sexual orientation basically means that it is who you are attracted to. So, sexual orientation is a person's inherent and enduring capacity for emotional, romantic, or sexual attraction to people of a different gender, the same gender, or more than one gender. Bogs, ang dami. Ang dami talagang pwede mong magustuhan. Pero, it's really up to you. It's really up to you.
Yeah.
Who you are sexually attracted to. So, if you are attracted to another gender that is not yours, or to a different gender, then you are heterosexual. Which is very unfortunate. Any lang! Walang magiging heterophobic for today's video. Ayun. Pero, again, for example, if a man is only attracted to women, he is heterosexual. Moment of silence for the heterosexual. Okay, so, ayun. So, nandito na tayo sa exciting part. You are gay. You are gay. You are gay if you are attracted to people of the same gender as yours. So, gay can describe both men that are attracted to men, like what Vince and However, unlike the term heterosexual, the term homosexual, ito na yung surprising or exciting part, has a discriminatory undertone. And surprisingly, even the term straight to describe heterosexual can be offensive as well. Kaya nga kanina, when referring to the heterosexuals, ang ginamit ko lang na term ay heterosexual. So we also have to be really mindful of the terms we use. So I hope by the end of this podcast, wala namang insensitive sa atin and we really take these terms or the things we learned to heart. These terms like gay and heterosexual are very well known already, di ba? They are the monosexual orientations in the SOGSC spectrum. Bugs, monosexual. O, diba? Di nyo alam yun. Parang di na grade 2. Anyway, or ayun, monosexual labels refer to attraction to people of one gender only. If you are attracted to people of more than one gender, men and women, for example, you are bisexual. Or bisexual plus, bi...
Yeah.
Sorry, that is not me too, pero just for context, running joke siya. Ano ka, bebay? Bayun? Ganon. Good. So, ayun, if you're attracted to more than one gender, you are bisexual. And honestly, marami pang terms under bisexuality. It is called an umbrella term. Then other labels under bisexuality are omnisexual, omni meaning all, or attraction to people of all genders. Pansexual, ako yun, ito. Ayun, pansexual meaning attraction to people regardless of their gender. So basically, we don't care what gender you are as long as we are attracted to you. Different siya sa omni kasi omni, important pa rin sa kanila yung gender. So, polysexual, poly meaning attraction to people of many genders. Because people can have many genders as well. Tapos, the most inclusive term that there is the term queer. So, basically, queer is a very interchangeable term in SOGSC, but to perfectly capture what queer means, queer is a term used for people who are non-conforming to society. So, when you are gay or part of the LGBTQ community, you are queer. The other uses for the term queer are questioning, exploring, but basically, queer is actually a type of protest that you do not conform and you will not be conforming to society's oppressive standards. Galing ko. Anyway, so, syempre, and of course, there is also the term that Sean mentioned before, which is sexually fluid. Sean is gender fluid, but sexual fluidity or being sexually fluid means that you are a gender that is constantly changing preferences or attractions. So, sorry me. So, basta pag gender sexually fluid ka, nag-change yung preference mo or the people you are attracted. Okay na, Ben. Okay na. Sorry, ma'am.
Ako nahihira.
Sorry, ma'am. Nakihira. Ang init, Ben. Sorry na. Pero ayun. So, may isa pa tayong term na hindi pa natin na-tackle. But it is equally as important. So, and of course, if you are not attracted to people of any gender, or if you experience little to no sexual attraction, you identify as asexual or ace. Ace is the other term used for asexuality. Although, quick clarification lang about asexuality. When you are asexual, hindi ibig sabihin nun na you are celibate as well or you don't have sex. It's just that people who are asexual just don't have any urges to have sex. They can have sex or they can masturbate as well. It's just that they don't specifically care for it or at least they don't want to do it. Parang ano lang yan. Kunwari, tayo. Kaya naman natin mag-titis. Nag-titis tayo na. Pero, ayaw natin gawin. So, ayun siya. So, asexual people just don't have any sexual desires or desires in general to have sex. Sexual orientation, even if it is the most commonly known term in the spectrum, still confuses a lot of people. But I hope naliwanagan naman tayo or kayo.
Definitely.
But I personally identify as pansexual, as I've said before. So, kayo mga te, so let's give a rundown of everyone here. So, say your name and your sexual orientation. Let's start with you first, since Daniel, ikaw lang ata nila pagsabot eh.
Yeah, hello everyone. My name is Daniel. I actually identify as bisexual. And ang pronouns na ginagamit ko preferably is he, him. And yeah, I'm actually really open naman sa family ko and my friends. I'm really proud na I was able to figure out kung how I want to identify myself in this world. And yeah, actually thank you, Nicole, for asking that question. Kasi since we're all sitting down here talking about SoGSC, it's really important na ma-establish natin the value of accepting who you are. Lalo na dapat, ito yung binibigyan nating halaga in this podcast episode.
Totoo.
So yun, how about you, Vince? I'm really curious. Kasi kanina, sinabi mo, natatawa ka every time you mention, someone mentions or refers to your gender and sexuality.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm sure you don't mean any offense naman to everyone.
Yeah.
Pero what do you mean by that?
Kasi ako, it's coming from a place where I have to feel those kinds of para mga experience ko before. Para to change it. I'm so nervous. I had to feel those parang whenever we talk about gender, ganyan, na I had to feel those with happy memories. Kasi ako, though it may seem na very comedic person ako, palagi akong tumatawa,
Ay, may walang natatawa sa'yo.
palagi akong nagpapatawa, ganyan. My experience was not that good.
Yeah.
Yan, kaya yung mga mahilig mag-develop ng mga insensitibo.
Pero ngayon naman, looking back, it's okay. What's important is that ngayon, out na ako, and my family and my friends na-accept na ako ngayon. And I cannot say the same thing if you were to give me that question like 3 to 5 years ago. So, ngayon, gusto ko tawa-tawa na lang kapag
Kasi
tinatanong ako kung
na-accept
ano
mo
ako.
na. Sabi nga ng a great philosopher once said,
Wow, may ganun.
be who you are. Kung di dyan alam, baka di kayo bakula.
Ayun, so, since nasabi mo na yun sa'yo, Nicole, kababawat din naman siya.
Yan.
Ako naman, I'm straight.
No, not straight, but prosexual.
Ayun, so na-mention ko naman na yun, I'm gay, and ayun, gender fluid ako, so my pronouns, he, him, she, they, whatever, as long as, parang ako kasi naniniwala ko.
Whatever.
Personally kasi I don't really hold on to pronouns that much. Parang ang important kasi sa akin is as long as you address me with respect and dignity, okay na yun. Parang, ayun nga, kasi nga, sobrang gender fluid ko. Makikita nyo na ako, naglalakad ako dyan sa Moraita as a girl, pero dito sa school, naka-uniform pa lalaki. So, parang hindi na talaga ako nag-hold on to that. And, parang, ayun nga, as I mentioned, parang respect everyone's pronouns na lang din. Kasi ayun nga, parang, not everyone is, parang very important na talaga na kilalanin natin and respectively ask.
Yes,
So yun,
exactly.
very, parang gender sensitivity, very important.
So, ako rin magsasabi kasi si Vince skinny pop may problema ka sa
Di ba ikaw na una?
Sabihin ko din yung pronouns ko. I'm Nicole, I'm pansexual, and my pronouns are she, her, danda, bayut. But yeah, I use the pronoun she, her. So, we are now moving on to the second component of SoGSC, which is
Gender identity. So ayun, dito usually, kahit ako, kahit sino yan, nalilito talaga. Kasi parang at first, medyo nakakatakot, medyo overwhelming yung amount of information. So very important na in this podcast, i-simplify namin para mas madali siyang ma-digest ng ating online content. So, ano nga ba ang gender identity? So, gender identity, or GI, so GSC, is a person's deeply felt internal and individual experience of gender, whether as female, male, or another identity, which may or may not align with their sex assigned at birth. So, ayun nga, mention ni Vince kanina na if your gender matches your sex assigned at birth, you are cisgender. So, for example, if you're a woman who was assigned female at birth, you are a cisgender woman or cis woman. Remember, CIS in the SIS. However, if your gender doesn't align with your sex assigned at birth, you are transgender. So, minsan tawag natin dito is transgender plus or shortened to trans, or which is an umbrella term that describes people whose gender doesn't match their sex assigned at birth. So, for example, if you're a woman who was assigned male at birth, you are a transgender woman or a trans woman. So, ayun, parang there's a code for this, and para ma-simplify na lang natin, so basically, if one male or female at birth and their gender is in correspondence with them, aka they identify as a man or woman, then they are cis. So kung ako, for example, pinanganak akong lalaki, and until now, I identified as lalaki, cisgender ako. On the other hand, pag may dissonance, yung sex nila assigned at birth, at yung identity nila, then they are reassignment surgery or not, they can be or they are trans. So very important guys na manote natin na ang pagiging transgender, hindi lang yan process na dapat dinadaanan. So parang for example, if I transition to becoming a woman, it doesn't really matter kung ano yung nasa pagitan ng legs ko.
True.
As long as I identify myself as a woman, yun na yun. Hindi ko na kailangan ng gamot, hindi ko na kailangan ng surgery. As long as I identify myself as woman, transgender na ako. So, any trans man or trans woman, they are valid regardless if nag-undergo sila sa medicine or surgery.
So, add ko lang, there's actually a term for that, Sean. I mean, other things you do to say na you are transgender besides sexual assignment surgery, meron din tayong tinatawag na gender-affirming acts. Gender-affirming acts is what trans people do to say na they are trans or their gender is not aligned with their sex assignment. So, a practice of gender-affirming acts is part of gender expression as well. So, a trans woman, since they are a male assigned at birth, they can dress up as a woman as well, because that's who they are.
Yes.
In the deepest of their souls or their identity, even if they are a man at birth, they are really female at heart.
Yes.
So, gender-affirming acts is not just limited or included with sexual reassignment surgery. Yeah.
So ayun, going back, transgender as an umbrella term is comprised of binary and non-binary gender. So ano nga ba yung binary gender? So basically, itong mga binary genders, these are labels of being a man or woman, whereas yung non-binary naman, that they go beyond those typical society-conforming genders. So as long as na you identify as man or woman, binary na yon. Pero kapag hindi na pasok dun sa dalawang categories na yun, non-binary ka na. So, ayun. So, binary transgender identities include transgender women and men. So, on the other hand, non-binary genders include agender or no gender, bigender, which is two genders, gender fluid, which I mentioned a while ago, ayun nga, a changing experience of gender, and gender queer or queer. So, ayun, yung intersection ng sexual orientation natin and yung gender identity natin cannot be denied, just like any other parts of the GSC spectrum. But sexual orientation and gender identity usually go hand in hand because it defines who we want to be with and who we want to be. So parang yun yung parang pinaka-humanizing part ng GSC if from what I understood, and being parang you're allowed to exist without being restricted.
Yeah.
So, and along with that, parang you're being able to be accepted and not tolerated. Guys, iba yung dalawang yun. And as a queer man myself, parang advocacy ko talaga when it comes to gender issues is yung acceptance. Iba kasi talaga pag tinotolerate lang.
Totoo.
So, ayun.
Ramdam. Ramdam
Oo,
yun.
ramdam
Ng queer
yun.
community or
Oo.
any person who is queer. Yun, katulad ng siya ni Vince kanina. Before, 3 to 5 years ago, he was not really accepting of his sexual orientation or his gender expression or identity. Kasi, ano yung mga na-experience mo nito? Example lang nung medyo na-experience mo na talaga nakapagpa-repress sa'yo.
Mostly kasi sa family.
Oh, diba?
I would not like to elaborate.
Oo. Pero gets
Pero
na agad.
gets na agad. Just from the movies you watch or personal experiences or experiences from friends or other family members.
So, ayun, going back, very important talaga na maparamdam natin sa, hindi lang by words by actions din. Even in politics, representation, yun nga, parang nung unang seminar natin or seminar podcast natin, very important talaga na magkaroon ng representation ang gender, minorities,
Yes.
especially with women and the LGBTQIA plus community. Kasi parang doon namin na-feel na napapakinggan kami. And pinaglalaban din yung pinaglalaban na.
Yeah.
So, ayun, next naman is gender expression.
Yeah, before I actually move on to that part, I just want to say na very well said yung sinabi ka na Sean, na it really perfectly captures of what we want to point out in this podcast episode. And yeah, moving on to gender expression. Earlier na-mention na to kanina nila Sean and Vince, is that this basically refers to how people want to present themselves to the world. How they want to express their how they want to identify themselves. For example, makikita natin yun kasi that is very unique to every individual. For example, it's how we dress up, kung ano yung mga hairstyle choices natin, kung it's how we speak to other people, ano pa ba?
The things we like.
The things we like, yeah, exactly. Tapos, I just want to point out that there is also a danger here. Kasi nga, it's very common in some cultures and society na porket, na-mention ko kanina to ni Vince na porket may nakita tayong lalaki na medyo malamya or in English is very flamboyant. People tend to associate these kinds of people na bading yan. And which, ang thought ko lang dito is that we should really remove these kinds of judgments. Kasi parang we want to gumagawa tayo ng culture that is very dangerous na ina-assume agad natin kung ano yung identity at ang orientation ng isang tao just because they act the way they do. Although ako, I identify as bisexual, I don't necessarily portray myself as very feminine. I don't usually, hindi ko rin naman masasabi na I'm very, alam mo yung traditional masculine.
True.
So, ang masasabi ko lang is that if in the case meron mga stereotypes put forward against me, it can be really hurtful na naman kapag naranasan mo yun. And yes,
Add ko lang na parang hindi lang din siya nangyayari to people who are gay. Parang to people who are straight too.
Yeah.
Some straight men, they are really in touch with their feminine side or may pagkain nga malamya or at least minsan nga kahit pagbalinis lang sa katawan sinasabihan niya bakla, ganyan.
Exactly.
So, it's really hurtful and may disconnect talaga yung mga tao doon. And I think people should really be aware na what they say can really hurt people in the long run or would suppress people from expressing who they really are.
Yun, so I actually just want to bring up na in order to circumvent this problem na of unintentionally hurting someone, it's really important na first we get to know their names, their preferred name of choice, and of course yung pronouns na preferred nila. Kasi although someone might express themselves as males, it's really important na ma-establish pa rin natin kung ano yung pronouns nila para ma-avoid natin, alam mo yung parang iisipin agad natin, lalaki naman yan kasi uma-acting siyang lalaki. That's really fitting yung standards natin in society. And moving on from this topic is the idea of sexual characteristics. Earlier this was mentioned na, pero particularly I want to focus more on the idea of the existence of intersex people. Kanina na-bring up na ni Vince sa overview yung males and females sa society. But for this one, I actually want to introduce the topic of intersex. Kasi I actually just recently read an interesting article na out of sa population ng United States, there are 1.7% of people that are born intersex. Pero ano nga ba ang intersex? Intersex people are basically individuals who possess both male and female characteristics, such as having reproductive systems or genitals that can be both identified as male and female, and have basically their genetic makeup. Wow, very science. Their genetic makeup is
biology.
Yeah, it's really a combination of both. Pero for this one, I want to point out na let's avoid discriminating against these kinds of demographic. Kasi if we were to use yung statistic na 1.7% sa population ng US ngayon, I found out that the total number would be 5.8 million people of intersex people. So imagine 5.8 million who identify as intersex and they're afraid to reveal kung ano yung sexual characteristics nila. Kasi nga, there is a trend na they're really being bullied more than women. That's actually a fact na just because they have these biological characteristics that are already innate to them, parang nakakasad naman talaga makita na they're being bullied for these kinds of reasons. And going back lang doon sa nasabi ko kanina, in this day and age, if we want to truly fight for equality, inclusivity, dapat we should really abolish these misconceptions. So, bearing that in mind, parang it's really our responsibility to always to just be better every day. So, yeah. Let's just really learn to abolish these kinds of misconceptions.
So, ayan, thank you for that, Daniel. So now we're gonna move on into debunking some misconceptions of SOGSC. Kasi ayun nga, parang as I've mentioned earlier, we cannot accept what we cannot understand. So very important na
So,
at least,
Galing ng
Yeah.
sis ko.
Ganda.
Ganda ng sis ko.
so parang in order for us or for the audience or our online audience to understand, very important na kahit pa paano ma-explain natin yung some of the misconceptions and bakit sila mali. So first off is yung misconception na SOGSC or SOGSC equality is just for the people na part ng LGBTQIA plus community. Mali ito and super layo nito sa reality kasi number one, inherent sa tao. Regardless of their sex assigned at birth or gender identity, lahat tayo may SOGSC. Straight ka man, bakla ka man, transgender ka man, may SOGSC ka.
Yeah.
And kapag sinabi natin SOGSC equality, pinaglalaban natin ang mga rights and interests ng lahat. And ang gusto lang, yeah, thank you for that. Ang gusto lang nating ma-abolish, gulat ako dito, biglang ano, ang gusto nating ma-abolish, or yung movement, ang gusto ma-abolish ng movement na yun, is yung oppression and system na nakaka-apekto sa lahat.
Yeah.
Kaya napapansin or na-relate lang ang SOGSC sa queer community is because of the fact na minority ang laging na-oppress, yung queer community, yung mga kababaihan.
Yeah.
So very important na aside from these two minorities, sinasama din natin yung mga kalalakihan.
Yeah.
So ayun. Next naman is yung idea na taking a gender-responsive approach is complicated, costly, and it takes time. I think this one dives into the political representation of gender and SOGSC. So, for this one naman, dapat nating tandaan na ang SOGSC equality is a gender-responsive approach na ang goal is ayusin ang mga nag-e-exist na sistema patungo sa isang orientation na non-discriminatory, sustainable, and intersectional. Kaya hindi dapat rason na komplikado, mahal, at matagal ang movement na ito dahil masyadong mababaw. If you're gonna look into it.
Yeah.
So, ayun, yun yung parang so far na yung mga alam ko or na-notice ko na misconception about SOGSC. So, does anyone want to share?
Yeah. Actually, Sean, I really like yung sinabi mo lang na yung typical misconception around SOGS is that it's too mabagal, maraming gastusin, gano'n. And I actually really agree with that. But I feel like yung gusto ko ma-bring up ngayon is really connected to that. Pero, yung idea na to is that SOGSE is not a problem in today's society. Kasi dun mapupunta yung idea na yun na kung mabagal siya, unnecessary na siya in today's problems of society. And for this one, I think it would be really unfair to say na SOGSE is not a problem in society. Kasi sa dami ba naman ng harassment, oppression, bullying that happens to many individuals, to all individuals, it would be really out of touch kapag yun yung argument na gusto mong i-bring up sa mga sa mga discussions mo with other people. And furthermore, isa pang misconception na naiisip ko regarding this is that SOGSE daw violates religious faiths, teachings, and beliefs. And gusto ko lang ma-share dito is that no, SOGSE does not violate any religious teachings of any kind of religion. Kasi nga, ang purpose naman talaga ng SOGSE is about love, and then, not love. It's about the it's about the identity, acceptance, and respect that we should give towards other people. Tapos, ayun lang, parang we should really, wag natin isipin na SOGSE and religion are like in competition with each other. They're not fighting for one particular goal. But rather, siguro gawin na lang natin is, infuse natin together yung mga teachings of religion and SOGSE.
Really interconnected.
Yeah.
Kasi the Bible, or like, not just the Bible, just religion in general, or SOGSE, fight for the same things.
Yeah.
Like, they believe in diversity, inclusivity, and therefore intersectionality.
Yes, I really agree with that. At saka nga, kasi for example, for in Catholicism, masasabi natin, hindi, masasabi naman natin talaga that they really want to advocate for compassion and love. So, on the topic of SOGSE, why not let's bring that kind of concept, that kind of preachings, sa idea ng loving each other based no matter what kung ano man yung SOGSE natin. And lastly na lang, may gusto na lang akong ma-add. Ang sinasabi ng ibang tao kasi is that SOGI equality is too repetitive na daw. Kaya hindi na natin kailangan yun kasi paulit-ulit na lang yan, wala naman nangyayari. So ang thought ko lang dito is that I hope we remove this kind of misconception kasi parang it really disregards yung mga nangyayari ngayon in society. At saka, kung masasabi mong SOGI equality is too repetitive, edi parang you're not considering what's happening to other people. Kaya, it's really our responsibility to be more aware kung ano ba yung nangyayari around us, to our friends, to even our family members. Kung they are well put and well accepting of their own SOGSEs.
That's actually true. I just want to have a little bit of input.
Yeah.
Kasi, there's still a factionalism even inside of the queer community. Especially, this is especially true for straight passing people.
Diba?
Lumabas ka man, lumabas ka ng street, at tanungin mo sila kung na-discriminate sila for their actions, for how they wear, their things, kung ano man yung sinasabi nila, ibang-iba sa mga na-experience ng mga katulad ko. Na sa tingin nila, hindi nila kailangan yung SOGSE or equality or freedom in general just because hindi sila apektado. And that is actually a problem. Kasi if you want to progress, kailangan mo samahan ng community mo.
Yes.
Really?
No matter how straight you may appear, you are still part of the community.
Yes. Very important.
Very well said.
Pag yung gagalitin ng ate namin.
So, ayun. Thank you for debunking the misconceptions of SOGSE with me, Danielle. Now, I wanna talk about some international frameworks in relation to SOGSE. So, I wanna first talk about international frameworks on human rights. So, I guess aware naman tayo, no, kung ano yung United Nations.
Yeah.
True.
Ayan. So, Okay, so since aware naman na tayo lahat, and I believe majority ng ating online viewers aware na din kung anong United Nations, I'd like to point out a few ideas na I've researched about. So first is yung Universal Declaration of Human Rights or UDHR. So basically, itong framework na to is parang foundation siya ng human rights principles na dineclare ng United Nations. And from what I recall, this is adopted globally and it includes principles of equality, non-discrimination, and the right to life, liberty, and security of person applicable dapat sa lahat ng individuals. So regardless of their sexual orientation or gender identity, dapat may ganun sila. So, in 2016 naman, gumawa naman ng United Nations Human Rights Council ng independent expert on SOGI. Pero to note lang, SOGI siya, hindi siya SOGI completely. So basically, it is tasked to protect people against violence and discrimination based on sexual orientation and gender identity. So dapat parang minomonitor ito ang mga human rights violations against the LGBTQIA+ community globally. And the last framework naman, very important to actually kasi very from what I recall, dito nakabase yung SOGI bill natin. Foundation, yan. Is yung Yogyakarta Principles. So basically, this was created in Indonesia. Parang sobrang laganap ng abuse, gender-based abuse globally na yung mga experts, they met in Yogyakarta, Indonesia to create an outline of international principles relating to sexual orientation and gender identity. Tapos dapat daw lahat ng states mag-comply kasi it promises a brighter future for individuals na may environment wherein people are born free and equal in dignity. So ayun guys, with the frameworks that I've discussed, and before we move on to our next sharers. Ano yung mga thoughts niyo so far when it comes to like the international framework? So does anyone want to start?
I actually want to start on this. When you said kanina sa Yogyakarta Principles, I've actually heard of this before. Kasi before when I was reading yung SOGI bill natin, it was really, nakita ko naman talaga na it really cemented kung ano yung gusto maging anong gusto maging future ng ating mga policymakers here in the Philippines. At saka, natuwa lang din ako kasi nga it was really well-grounded sa gusto ma-foster ng Yogyakarta Principles. And at saka, of course, as personally, I'm all for having a society that is all for respecting, all for loving everyone. No matter how they want to identify themselves. Kasi ang point ko lang naman is that if it makes someone happy, if they are being respected, then why not take part on that movement of making people happy?
Yes.
Yun lang.
So ayun. Ikaw ba, Vince?
I guess, yeah. Ano yun?
Input sa international framework.
I think it's very crucial that we follow a certain framework for everyone to follow. Ulit ko lang. Kasi nga, hindi tayo pwede iba-iba kung ano ang for let's say iba-ibang pag-interpret natin sa isang bagay.
Yes.
Nagkakagulo-gulo kasi. That's actually a big problem when in terms of international community.
Yes.
Napag-usapan na natin yan from our other subjects in political science.
Yeah.
And it is very crucial then na meron tayong foundation because kung wala, hindi natin malalaman kung ano ba ang kailangan natin solve.
Yes.
And ang magiging case-to-case basis lang yan ay yung mga violations na nag-occur from one place to another. So, for me, I think it's a very good progress. Ang sa akin lang is back in 2016 lang. Especially for the surgeries. When for hundreds of years, naganap na siya. And, nga pala, I have to add on then na parang narinig ko yung Yogyakarta Principle because of our internship. Kasi ako, I worked under Gabriela party list, which is a party list that heralds women's rights in the Philippines.
Carol.
So ayun, yung Yogyakarta principle kasi for the queer community, it also puts forth the rights and yung mga gusto ng mga kababaihan sa buong mundo. So ayun.
Thanks. Yeah, I really like what you said.
Ikaw ba, Nico?
Let's just start off. Kasi with Daniel, I was familiar with the Yogyakarta principles. I know what it is. I know what it stands for. And I know how foundational it is to the movement of SOGIESC. But what I didn't know was it originated from the country of Indonesia. And that's actually really, really interesting to me. I just searched up if Indonesia was part of Southeast Asia. That's actually really embarrassing. I searched it up for a reason. The fact that the Yogyakarta principles, the foundational basis of SOGIESC, came from Southeast Asia is really touching to me because in the whole world, the most accepting or at least tolerating in terms of statistics is the region of Southeast Asia. So that makes sense. Like it's like a full circle moment. Kaya pala accepting ang Southeast Asia kasi nyo kaya nanggaling sa amin. And it's actually sad. Again, kasi grabe yung roller coaster of emotions. Kasi if nanggaling sa Southeast Asia, ang movements, or at least the foundational basis of SOGIESC, and Philippines is a Southeast Asian country, why are we the most backwards when it comes to SOGIESC? Well, there is no shame in being an outlier or a deviation per se. But I think we should draw the line when it comes to human rights. Kasi another foundation of SOGIESC, as Sean discussed, is the Universal Declaration of Human Rights from the United Nations. If SOGIESC, SOGIESC fights for equality, the exercise of rights of all, why is it still being limited here in the Philippines? Grabe, kailan pa ba Gabriela people, kailan pa ba in-introduce ang bill ng SOGI? I mean, dati nga SOGI, pero recently alam ko, in-introduce na yung SOGIESC bill. Pero kailan pa yun, like, in Congress or like, pinaprocess?
I think it's been years na.
I think siguro around 3 years na siguro. I heard it before nung pre-pandemic. So sobrang tagal na talaga.
Ayun, the SOGI bill or SOGIESC bill is still not approved here in the Philippines. It is still not legalized or put into law, and that says a lot. So, instead of being outliers or deviations for equality, diversity, and intersectionality, I really think that our country should really reassess the situation and really think about what we are fighting for and what side of history we are on. And hopefully, it is the side of history that is pro-SOGIESC, pro-inclusive, and equality.
Ayun, so thank you for that, Nicole, Vince, and Danielle. Very smart pala tong mga to. So, now that we have shared with you guys the basics of SOGIESC, debunking its misconceptions, as well as related international frameworks, let us now move on to our next set of sharers.
Sharers! Kita sharers pa talaga tayo.
Pinantindigan na. So, without further ado, let us all welcome Yana, Tom, Jamie, and Miguel.
Ayun no, kanina, ang ganda nga ng topic natin today. And sobrang diverse pa ng mga speakers natin from the previous session.
Yeah. I hope we lived up to their to the expectations na pinasent nila. Kasi nga, they're like very capable sa pag-explain itong topic. So, yes, kasi nga, part of the LGBTQIA.
Tapos tayo na lahat straight.
Hindi man halata. Pero,
Let's take pride in that.
Uy! Wag. So anyway, kanina they discussed about SOGIESC in general and yung mga the minute details pagdating sa gender and sexual orientation.
So, ang i-discuss naman natin today is yung SOGIESC nga in the Philippine context, tsaka yung SOGIESC bill present ngayon. So,
Same. Okay, to kick things off, I think it's best to understand the SOGIESC bill without isolating it from the history.
Ayun, true. I agree with that. And I think if we were to start regarding yung similarity mga social justice discourse here sa Philippines, I think it's a good place to start is in pre-colonial Philippines. Kasi very normalized talaga yung social justice discourse. Makikita natin talaga yun sa mga babae natin. Acknowledge talaga yung social justice nila whether babae sila or lalaki. Sila yung mga spiritual leaders and leaders of their life. And meron talaga silang spiritual recognition and it doesn't really matter kung ano talaga sila. They also have homosexual relations and that's like very normalized.
Sana all talaga. Pero, teka, ano ba yung gender crossing? Bakit hindi cross-dresser? Uy!
Yun, bakit nga ba gender crossing yung tinatawag natin doon? Kasi gender crossing kasi nga, they can cross between gender roles. And as I've said, yung mga men nga at that time, they decide to be babae lang, tawag sa kanila so and they're granted the same spiritual recognition as their female counterparts. Kasi pag babae lang, mostly talaga, it's either women talaga yan dapat or those of like very iba talagang gender fluid. Tsaka bukod pa dito, yung mga asog talaga, they played a really important part against the Spanish occupation sa atin. Very empowered talaga, and very good history, very rich history.
True si Kels nga naman talaga, no? So, ako, medyo fun fact. So sana fun nga talaga siya. So, alam niyo ba, nung 300 years Spanish colonial period, our indigenous people, we are a matriarchal society talaga. So, kaya nga, primarily, women talaga ang nagiging patay lang.
Sa mga babae.
Pero, nagkaroon ng shift sa ideology kasi noon dahil na rin sa introduction ng Spanish to Catholicism. Naging patriarchal society tayo. And yung gender crossing ika nga, na-ridicule siya. And from that, nagkaroon din ng machismo contest or machismo where effeminate men were viewed as different and less respectful. So parang yun na rin yung dahilan ng bakit tayo nagkaroon ng regional vernacular sa Tagalog na bakla, which was derogatory and it symbolized cowardice or pagiging duwag. Decades later, kinalala pa to ng American colonization period. Na-reinforce niya yung conceptualization ng gender and sexuality. Kaya, it seemingly may institutional or systemic form of prejudice when it comes to gender and sexuality. So parang lalo niyang in-integrate talaga sa pang-araw-araw na buhay yung prejudice niya.
Pero parang di naman fun fuck yun eh.
Kaya nga, pasensya.
Okay, pero like, it's good to know that, no? Para alam natin talaga yung history natin. Ako naman, ang naalala ko from what I've read ang laking part talaga ng women's movement naman in the 1980s. Para magkaroon ulit ng discourse regarding socialism, para bang mabuwag itong mga sinasabi mga systemic prejudice.
Uy, meron din ako, pero hindi siya fun fact.
Hindi siya fun fact.
So yun, tignan natin. Yung women's movement kasi noong 1980s was a highlight in the struggle of the lesbian community to be visible in the public. Noong time kasi na yun, yung lesbian community, they felt invisible and ignored in the past few decades. To the point na yung lesbian concerns are being subsumed under women's and feminist studies, which is previously prominently conceptualized na heterosexual in nature. And under the gay movement, yung lesbian women are seen as female version of homosexual men.
Very problematic.
Yeah, I just want to add na yung lesbian community, they want their voices to be heard in the fight against dictatorship then, which eventually nagkaroon ng underground organization, yung Makikibaka. They released a position paper including sexual orientation issues in the movement. And last na talaga.
Sige, go.
Later kasi, in the 1990s, yung issue of gender and sexuality naging major concern as women's movement, leading to the formation of the lesbian collective, yung Lesbon.
Parang James Bond pala yan, no?
Alam mo, sensitive yun na
Sorry. Pero ayun, parang isa silang association or underground force na magtutulong-tulong para
Have you ever watched a James Bond movie?
Hindi.
Pero yun, gusto ko lang mag-zone in dun sa sinabi niya regarding, ayun, sa against the dictatorship. Kasi noong 1970s at 1980s, martial law era pa ni Ferdinand Marcos, nagkaroon tayo ng increased activism. And kasama din sa increased activism, advocacy for human rights and talaga yung rights ng mga queer, mga LGBTQIA+. Pero sadly, meron pa rin talagang societal pressures na very ingrained sa atin. And medyo naging largely conservative pa rin talaga yung sentiments ng mga Filipinos regarding that in particular.
Nakakalungkot talaga yun, Teo. Pero yun nga, to follow, noong 1990s naman, nagkaroon na ng emergence ng LGBTQIA+ organizations and advocacy groups na nag-work together para i-address yung discrimination and para na din ma-promote yung inclusivity. Kaso, yun nga lang, yung societal acceptance, it remains slow. And yung queer individuals, they continue to face various challenges.
To add lang din, noong early 2000s kasi, nagkaroon ng increased visibility yung mga LGBTQIA+ sa mainstream. Kaya yung advocacy efforts, nag-focus siya more on anti-discrimination laws and recognition of equal rights. Yung first LGBTQ+ political party nga, alam niyo ba yung name?
No.
No? Yung Ladlad. They attempted to participate in elections pero ayun nga, they faced barriers.
Nahirapan talaga.
Kung naalala niyo yung unang-unang seminar session natin, diba? Nabanggit natin yung tungkol sa political parties.
Yeah, it's very hard talaga.
Pero alam niyo din ba na yung conversations around SOGSC, it gained momentum dito sa Philippines noong 2010. And yung advocates, they pushed for the passage of the Anti-Discrimination Bill, also known as the SOGSC Equality Bill. So para sa mga hindi nakakaalam, yung SOGI Equality Bill, it aims to protect individuals from discrimination based on their sexual orientation, gender identity, and expression na sadly, up until today, hindi pa rin siya napapas.
Yeah. I mean, I'd argue talaga guys na ang path for inclusive and encompassing na SOGS rights here sa Philippines ay magsisimula talaga dito sa SOGI-based na anti-discrimination bill.
What? Inclusive and encompassing?
Totoo naman. I mean, medyo deep okay, pero totoo naman, diba?
Well, ayun din sa bagay. Actually nga, it's Senate Bill number 1600 titled as An Act Prohibiting Discrimination on the Basis of Sexual Orientation, Gender, Identity, or
Grabe
Expression,
naman.
or Sex Characteristics, and providing penalties thereof.
Hala, ang lakas talaga sa mga po ni
True,
Miggy. Pero tama ka naman, Miggy. Yan nga ang current bill here sa Philippines advocating for SOGSC rights. Marami na yung pinagdaanan yan since the 70th Congress. Parang ako lang.
Uy!
Yeah. So there's revisions here and there, pero the essence of it stayed the same.
So ayun nga, that bill, mas kilala natin siya bilang SOGSC Equality Bill or SOGSC Bill. Alam niyo ba, alam ko ka-close yung isa dito eh. Sila Senator Ontiveros, Legarda, and Villar, ang authors ng current version nito.
Si Ate Lisa nakakainom.
Ay grabe, ate, first name basis ka.
Oo, ganun kami kayo nung hindi naman yung Pero ayun nga guys, pwedeng paulit na lang ulit. Bigay tayo ng brief rundown kung ano ba talaga meron sa SOGS.
Well, duty naman kasi ng state, di ba, na maprotektahan ang right of every person regardless of sex, age, class, status, ethnicity, color, disability, political or religious beliefs, and of course, SOGSC. Kung ako tatanungin, this has been long overdue.
True.
So, pinapromise nga rin ng bill na all forms talaga ng discrimination, marginalization, and violence based on one SOGSC ay i-address. Tsaka syempre, hindi rin makakalimutan ng bill na i-acknowledge na merong current SOGSC-based disadvantages and limitations. Kaya gagawan din yan ng paraan. So, huwag kayo mag-alala.
Right. Well, pero kung isipin nyo guys, parang medyo naging slightly mainstream na talaga yung SOGSC acknowledgement here sa Philippines. For example, kahit na Catholic country tayo, very LGBTQIA+ friendly tayo, no? May major improvements tayo ha. Tulad na lang, meron tayong distinction of ranking highest for LGBTQIA+ social acceptance in Southeast Asia. Tayo may pinaka-highest ranking doon.
Alright! Tapos, meron din tayong very open and populated queer congregation tulad na lang ng mga annual Pride parades and celebrations. Alam nyo ba, yung recent Pride Festival sa Quezon City, nagkaroon yun ng 110,000 attendees and it is the biggest queer congregation in Southeast Asia to date.
More and more talaga, nakikita nga naman natin na may increased awareness and tolerance sa iba't ibang SOGSCs. So, for example, isang Catholic institution na the Ateneo.
Wow, dati na yun.
Yeah, syempre ba? They hold their own pride parades. Tapos syempre, di natin nakakalimutan na ating University of the Philippines. Very open din sila pagdating sa mga ganyang bagay.
Ako naman, ang thoughts, for my personal observation, napapansin ko talaga na meron ng SOGSC acknowledgement sa how I interact with people. Kasi mas nakakita ko talaga na very nagpuput na ng emphasis katulad ng sinabi kanina ni Daniel na talagang dapat alamin mo muna yung pronouns ng tao na kausap mo. Kasi that's like, you're showing respect talaga dun sa tao na nakausap mo. Kasi na-acknowledge mo na yung SOGSC nila very, hindi talaga kung ano lang yung pinapakita nila, diba? Like that's being very respectful. And that's acknowledging that they have SOGSC. Ikaw, Yana, what are your thoughts?
Actually, same lang din naman sa'yo, Dom, na dapat alamin natin kung paano yung isang tao gusto niyang matawag.
Para kaya,
Although one time at a party, medyo nalito ako paano ako approach isang tao. Parang
yes.
nag-stutter ako sa gagamitin kong pronoun. So, at the end of the day, hindi ko rin siya nakausap. So, siguro I need to work more on that.
Pero I think, normal naman din yun in a sense. Saka dapat, hindi na lang talaga natin maging open to the fact. And saka dapat maging apologetic tayo. Kasi talagang feelings ng ibang tao kaya natin masaglan.
Parang sa sobrang kaka-overthink mo kung appropriate ba, hindi mo na lang din nakausap yung tao. Pero that's on me na. I need to work on that talaga.
Pero ang tragic na even with these developments na na-witness natin, wala pa rin talaga nada, zero, zilch, na national bill na nag-penalize and criminalize ng discrimination based sa SOGSC ng isa nating kapwa.
Uy, pre, pero may progress naman na. Meron naman tayong mga cities or municipalities na nag-i-implement ng mga ordinances nila na SOGI-based discrimination. Yun talaga yung ina-address nila.
Totoo naman, Besh, pero ang common complaint naman kasi dyan, hindi naman sila ganun ka-effective talaga. And time again, may mga lumilitaw na issues that still call for a nationwide war.
I agree with that. Parang marami nga pa rin issues na nagre-resurface talaga na nagko-call for that. So, sorry na lang, Miki. Medyo narilito ka doon. Medyo nakaka pa doon. Pero yun nga, kailangan talaga natin ma-address yung SOGSC-based discrimination on a nationwide level. Kasi kung hindi, ako po. Especially for our LGBTQIA plus community, na talagang sila yung talagang mainly na-discriminate just because of their SOGSC. Pag wala tayong formal recognition through like, yun nga, nag-penalize and criminalize, nagbabatas. Yung mga harms na committed against them, and sa mga ibang tao pa, just based on their SOGSC, talagang mapo-perpetuate at talagang ma-unleft result, diba?
Naku po talaga. Pero para naman makabawi ako. Makabawi ako. I feel the need to enumerate yung mga nado-document na cases. Yung nakikita natin currently na mag-shed light sa situation ng SOGSC discrimination sa Pilipinas. Para ma-emphasize talaga yung pangangailangan natin, yung urgency ng isang SOGSC bill or anti-discrimination bill.
Let's go speakers. Right.
O sige, salamat bro. So, simulan na muna natin sa detrimental effects ng discrimination. So, based sa SOGSC, trigger warning lang. Pero meron talagang direct correlation sa... Pwede ko bang sabihin ng buo, bro?
So yeah, I think as long as na ano naman natin.
Ng suicide risk for gay men and women with the discrimination workplace. Parang the numbers don't lie.
Kahit na going more tolerable ang Philippines, hindi pa rin talaga mag-discard yung traditional view on SOGSC na very much still prominent. Yung pervasiveness nga nito ay nagkakos ng gender role change, especially sa mga SOGSC na papasok sa queer community.
Wait, parang ako yung nasa-stay yung utang. Pwede bang expound pa kung what is gender role strain? Para rin sa akin at saka sa conscience ko.
Ay nako, sige na nga. Kasi ang gender role strain ay psychological stress na nararanasan ng isang individual to abide sa mga established gender norms ng society.
Wait, so kunwari, we have a gay Filipino man here in the Philippines. Talagang magkakaroon siya ng emotional turmoil kasi yung gender norms here sa Philippines na based sa socially constructed and culturally defined. Parang ang gender norms sila very heteronormative, di ba? Na parang gusto nila na dapat ang mga lalaki yan, macho, gusto. But if you're a gay man, parang ano ka talaga, feminine. So like magkakaroon talaga siya ng emotional stress kasi hindi siya nag-fit in, no?
Yes.
Tama ba?
Tama daw.
Oo, ako, tayo, lalaki tayo, pero ang alam lang na mental distress sa atin academics, trabaho. Bawal tayo maging emotional. Pero kidding aside,
Kidding aside.
yung rigid na enforcement ng gender norms, nagko-contribute talaga siya sa pag-decline ng mental health natin mga Pilipino. It results to depression, anxiety, and other mental health disorders which are very real din naman.
Nakakalungkot nga yan. Seriously, nakakalungkot yan. And I think it's also important to address na dahil nga wala tayong anti-discrimination bill din. Nalileft unchecked talaga yung state neglect tsaka state abuse.
Hello, Sim. Lalo na nga yung, kakasabi mo lang, yung state
Yung
abuse.
pandemic ba yan?
Sim, nagkaroon ng upward spike pagdating sa harassment and abuse towards women and gender minorities. Lalo na nga nung pandemic, kaya nang sabi mong baby. And ang usual culprit talaga dyan, yung mga law enforcements na under the guise of public health daw po, no? And nakaka-get away naman with exercising their power in degrading and depraved ways.
Pre, kaya nga, dahil dun sa state of emergency, na-empower lalo yung state-sanctioned violence to dissent. Di ba nga nung time na yun, weaponized yung approach or militaristic approach sa COVID-19 pandemic. Naging byproduct na yung ating mga LGBTQIA plus community members. Parang na-arresto talaga yung mga activists natin at napatahimik sila. Pati yung mga organizations, regardless of their concerns, or primarily yung when they voice out gender concerns, tinatahimik talaga sila.
Kasi parang pag-enter natin ng new normal, di ba medyo nasa new normal na tayo? Pero parang ganun pa rin yun.
Bakit? What do you mean ba, pre?
Kasi like, most Filipino-based companies pa rin, wala pa rin talaga silang integrated na SOGSE policies sa ano nila. So, kumbaga, mayroong bullying and harassment na nagaganap with corporate world sa maraming Philippine-based companies na talagang nabubully sila, nahaharas sila just because of their SOGSE talaga.
Hindi lang within sa corporate, even yung mga youth sa mga schools natin dito sa Philippines, nakakaranas din sila ng bullying and harassment dahil sa kanilang SOGS.
Ikaw daw, ano ba thoughts mo dyan?
Ako talaga, Hindi, pero kasi, tama naman. I appreciate that question kasi galing talaga ako sa all-boys school and I can really say na it was a very heteronormative. And nakita ko talaga yung experience na talagang merong SOGSE-based bullying na very prevalent dito sa environment na yun. So I think tama ko sa atin.
Isa siguro sa mga nang bubuli.
Uy, hindi.
Bakit edi isa ka sa LGBT?
Bakit ganun yung mga tanungan?
We have to know kasi
You're going by the stereotype na pag all-boys school, ganun, either nang bubuli or LGBTQIA.
kailangan ko na rin yata ng training.
Yeah.
Gender
Bro, ito naman ba
sensitivity
naman
training.
yan ba naman topic natin? Ganyan mga
Pasensya na. Siguro kasi hindi ka lang talaga pumapasok sa traditional norms and notions natin ng masculinity, which is, that is something na we should be proud of.
Ayun. Thank you.
Pero yung discrimination na, hindi lang pala sa peers nila nang gagaling, no? Naka-witness ka na ba first hand na hindi pinayagan pumasok or mag-enroll yung students dahil sa SOGSE nila?
Ako personally, I haven't. Pero I think it's because talagang sobrang prevalent nga ng culture na ma-outcast ka if like yung SOGSE mo is hindi talaga heteronormative. Na I think most people talaga sa amin na tinatago talaga yun. Tsaka like parang alam nila the fact na pag hindi lang sila yung ma-outcast from their peers, pero ma-outcast din sila sa mismong institution. Like i-outcast talaga sila ng mismong institution.
Grabe. Ginawa rin nila yan siguro kasi prevalent pa rin nga naman talaga sa iba't ibang educational institutions.
Yeah.
Yung pag-admit and pag-expel sa mga students sila based on their SOGSE, and meron din mga cases na nadadama yung anak dahil sa orientation ng
SOGSE ng parents?
dahil sa SOGSE
I've
ng
heard about
parents.
that na.
nadadama yung anak na dahil doon, na-expel or binabar sila from enrollment.
Grabe! Parang ang inclusive naman ng SOGI-based discrimination. Pero speaking of parents and pagbubuo ng pamilya, makakakita rin tayo ng discrimination even sa legislations natin. Like for example, yung family code na ginawa ni Cory, na explicitly sinasabi na yung marriage should only be between a man and a woman.
I think meron din tayong mga exclusionary laws talaga na kinakawawa na nga, yung kawawa pa. And I think a good example of that is the Solo Parents Welfare Act na dapat magpo-provide ng benefits and privileges sa mga solo parents and syempre din sa mga anak nila. Kaso ang problema kasi, who's qualified as a solo parent, hindi naka-qualify yung mga adopted parents, yung mga nag-a-adopt talaga. And tapos, mostly pag solo parent ka, it's either dapat talaga babae ka or single mother ba ka.
Naalala ko nga yan na pwede ka ma-recognize as a solo parent or ang lalaki as a solo parent if namatay na yung asawa mo or they're literally physically incapable or mentally incapable to take care of your child. Tsaka lang magkaka-privilege na mapunta sa'yo yung bata.
Eh di ang hirap nun, especially for example, 2 gay men na may adopted na anak.
Yeah, parang ganun na nga. Tsaka like, ang ganda lang din siguro isingit dito yung napapag-usapan niya natin lagi ng intersectionality regarding sa socialism. Kasi like, iba talaga yung disadvantages tsaka pinagdadaanan ng sabihin natin Filipino gay man na nakatira sa slums, tapos may mga pinapakain na sa, kumbaga siya ba, someone like vice ganda na like very, higher status. Siyempre may pinagdadaanan pa rin si vice ganda na discrimination based on their socio-SC, pero iba diba? Ibang level. Ano hito vice ganda?
May pwede tayong i-hate sa kanya eh.
Ano?
Yung movies niya kasi medyo cash grab siya eh.
Ang sama.
Parang pinagkakakitaan
Pero,
kasi yung
gets
LGBTQ
it.
community. Parang pinagkakakitaan niya na lang. Although, syempre as an outsider, mahirap sabihin kung paano ba talaga nire-receive ng target market niya. Pero, from my point of view kasi, medyo di talaga enjoyable kahit sa comedy side.
Ako masasabi ko na lang, hindi na ako nakakapanood ng MF. So, comment po ako guys.
Ako po, hindi. Enjoy!
So, ano pa ba gusto mong pag-usapan?
Lastly siguro, gusto ko rin na mapag-usapan natin yung trauma, violence, and murder na nagaganap dahil sa SOGI-SC ng isang tao. Mabigat to pero dapat lang talaga ma-bring this to our attention, lalo na sa discussion din. Kasi we can't just turn a blind eye to this. Totoo nangyayari siya.
Yeah, lalo na kasi madaming queer children are high risk in experiencing physical, psychological, and sexual violence. Sobrang nakakalungkot na dahil sa SOGI-SC mo, you are more likely to experience trauma.
Nakakalungkot nga tsaka nakakagalit, especially since meron tayong mga documented cases talaga na trigger warning ulit siguro. Meron tayong mga documented cases talaga na may systematic rape sa mga Filipino queer women, especially lesbians, kasi daw gusto silang gawing straight ng mga tao na nakapaligid sa kanila.
Grabe, what? Sorry kasi nakakagulat talaga na
Diba?
sobrang depraved naman na conversion therapy agad ang lalapitan or magiging justification sa sexual assault na yun. Pero meron din tayong iba pang violent measures na ginagawa towards Filipino queers and
Tayo?
lesbians. Sorry. Pero
Hindi tayo.
may ginagawa sila towards Filipino queers and lesbians para i-direct daw sa tinatawag nilang tuwid na daan or the right path.
Kasi heteronormative.
You know guys, discrimination and hate can easily lead to a dark way. At kitang-kita natin yan sa mga documented murders of Filipino transgenders and non-binary individuals. Sobrang nakakatakot isipin kasi for sure, hindi naman lahat ng killings ay documented.
True. Gusto ko lang din siguro balikan regarding dun sa pure Filipino women. Kasi nga diba, tinatry silang i-correct kasi nga daw mali yung sexual, yung SOGI-SC nila. And sometimes yung pagko-correct na yun, hindi lang nangyayari through sexual assault, nag-escalate siya actually to like cold-blooded murder na talaga. And like ang ridiculous nga kasi nakakapatay sila ng mga tao. There's like people who just because of their SOGI-SC napapatay nila. Tapos mga rason sobrang ridiculous, like sinasabi na kaya kailangan natin patayin yan kasi inaagaw nila yung mga straight na babae sa atin, yung mga straight na lalaki. Sobrang weird talaga, di ba? It's like, sobrang depraved.
Yeah. But we should not fail to mention din na women talaga are more vulnerable in general to discrimination, harassment, and violence. Member pa sila ng queer community o hindi, this is a sad reality.
Grabe, napaka-tragic talaga at sobrang deranged, depraved. Grabe. I cannot put it into words na kung gaano kasakol talaga yung nangyayari. Kaya, sobrang imperative na magkaroon tayo ng SOGSC-based anti-discrimination law dito sa Pilipinas para mabigyan na rin ng equal rights ang ating LGBTQIA plus community na mga kababayan.
Tama! I very much agree.
Wait. I agree din, pero...
Oy! Ba't ka kumakalma? Pumupubi ka ba?
Uy, huwag naman ganyan.
Naman,
Hindi.
Parang may
Wait.
yung reaction.
Hindi. Let me explain my side. Okay. Totoo naman na with the anti-discrimination bill, if napasa man to, ang talaga mas mapapanatag yung mga queer community natin. Kasi, ayun nga, magkaroon sila ng layer of another protection talaga magkakaroon na. Pero, I think we should not forget na lahat tayo may SOGSC. And through the anti-discrimination law, lahat talaga makikinabang kasi lahat may SOGSC.
And, ano ibig sabihin ng trade? Hindi pa simplify.
For example, ako as a straight cisgender man who also happens to be very handsome, sexy, and macho.
Siyempre, parang yun muna yung applicable
Hindi. Yung dalawang, yung first two lang yung relevant. Okay. Gusto ko lang i-add yun. Pero for example nga, if kunyari, in the instance na ma-reject ako sa isang trabaho, not because I was not qualified for the job, pero because of my SOGSC, I have comfort in the fact na meron tayong batas na against that. And like, makakompensate ako for it.
So, ang sinasabi mo, mas makikinabang talaga ang mga LGBTQIA plus community sa pag-implement natin ng isang SOGSC-based anti-discrimination law. Dahil marginalized communities nga sila, and sila talaga yung from the past to the present, nagiging biktima ng discrimination.
Based on their SOGSC.
Yeah, sorry. Pero dahil everyone nga has a SOGSC, edi everyone gets another layer of protection na rin din. Diba, it is for everyone nga naman talaga. Sadyang mas makikinabang lang talaga yung mga nasa LGBTQIA plus community dahil sa predicament nga nila na since the beginning, marginalized na.
Omsing. Ayun nga, SOGSC discrimination kahit sa mga cisgender people. Nangyayari yan. Pero gusto ko lang din i-clarify kasi na hindi talaga equal yung level talaga, diba? Pero we can experience that. Ayun nga, like, example, if like ma-reject ako sa job just because like sabihin natin, for a very rare example nga na sabihin natin na queer people yung employer ko. And katulad nga, parang diba, joke nila ni Cody kanina na parang, oh, we hate heterosexual people. Pero like, they joke about it. Pero other people kasi talaga, parang meron talaga heterosexual people. So like, for the rare instance, talaga magkaroon ako ng employer na queer, and like, they don't give me the job just because of my SOGSC. Like, napapanatag ako din kasi meron din, I have SOGSC, so na-encompass din ako ng SOGSC.
So true. Pero alam mo ba, yung anti-discrimination bill din based on SOGSC will also give our beautiful girls and women like me added legal security and protection against discrimination, harassment, and violence. Anyway, yun nga, need talaga natin i-clarify kasi surrounded talaga yung current SOGSC anti-discrimination bill ng misconceptions. And ang extreme end nga niya ay pinag-uusapan niya is na may sentiments na yung SOGSC bill daw ay mag-give ng special rights sa queer people.
Yung parang napag-usapan kanina, ng ating mga tropa.
Yung sabi ng mga sisi natin kanina, gusto ko rin pag-usapan kasi isang misconception natin sa SOGSC na ang bill na to, isang atake daw sa religious freedom. Siyempre, need natin ito ma-address kasi yun nga, you're a primarily Catholic or you're deeply Catholic country. Masama nga naman kung totoo ito, no?
Amen.
Good idea nga yun na. Lalo na kasi ang main opposition talaga na SOGSC bill here sa Pinas para ma-implement is talaga yung mga religious groups. Yung mga Christian fundamentalists talaga na todo at bigay puso talaga na pag-oppose dun sa implementation ng SOGSC bill.
Tapos yun nga, di ba guys, sinasabi nila na maaapakan religious freedom nila sa pagpasa ng bill. Pero kung titignan natin, religious speech na nangbabash ng SOGIESI ng iba under the context of a religious service, ceremony, or activity ay pinapayagan under the SOGIESI bill. Pero if yung religious freedom or speech ay ginamit para mag-discriminate kung saan made-deprive yung isang individual ng rights nila and services, is a big no.
Kung yung Pope nga natin, nag-a-adapt na sa times and very flexible na regarding SOGIESI, very welcoming na. I think may quote siya dati na yung love ni Jesus is for everyone. Kapag ganyan, parang nami-misinterpret na lang din nila siguro. Pero we can't jump to conclusions. It's not part of our discussion na to delve deep into that. Pero yun nga, from what we can observe, nagkakaroon talaga ng like, gina-justify yung religion to bring about hate.
And saka like, gusto ko rin yung sinabi mo regarding kay Pope Francis kasi di ba recently meron siyang statement regarding trans people na payagan na sila mag-convert ata. Like, dapat huwag natin requiring trans people to be Catholics. So, yun yung parang nag-a-adapt, meron talagang adaptation yung Catholic, mga religious. Nakita natin na pwede talaga mag-adapt yung mga religious institutions sa changing times talaga to be more inclusive to other people.
Hindi naman nga sila mawawalan ng freedom to practice their religion. At saka in the first place, kahit anong freedom meron ka, unlawful and mali, mang-discriminate ng kapwa. Nasa constitution natin yan.
Pero ayun nga, makaka-touch yung sinabi mo. Pwede ba parang
Mamaya.
Pero babalikan nga natin yung pinag-usapan natin. Parang, yun nga, sinasabi natin na through the changing times, parang nagmumukha naman na mas tolerant talaga yung Philippines, di ba? Sa mga SOGIESI debate. Pero parang dahil doon, nanggagaling na naman yung isang misconception na dahil nga mukhang tolerant mga yung Philippines, hindi na ata daw kailangan itong SOGIESI anti-discrimination bill.
Nako te, ang dami natin in-enumerate kanina. Back with supporting evidence and all pa yun. But food for thought na lang din, siguro. Kasi di porket hindi natin nakikita, eh hindi siya nag-exist eh.
Wow, that's it naman.
Realize.
Okay. Pero bakit tayo maniwala? Sige, how about we call on sa ating mga tropa to share their experiences regarding SOGIESI-based discrimination.
Pasok na kayo. Ano naman natin sila?
Okay. Hi, P! Hello, guys! So, ano topic natin ngayon?
Anong topic?
So,
Alam mo na ba?
pasensya na.
Go, introduce us
ayun.
again.
So, pasensya na kailangan namin
Guys.
kayo dito kasi kanina pa namin binabanggit, puro kami straight dito. Di man halata or what, pero...
Sure kayo?
Okay, kayo guys.
pero ayun guys, para naman masolidify yung sinasabi nga namin na SOGIESI discrimination is very much present.
Yes.
How about we ask you guys naman kung may experiences ba kayo regarding SOGIESI-based discrimination, please expound. And tsaka siguro ano rin yung thoughts nyo kahit hindi nyo personal experience.
Ikaw.
Let me go first. Pero
Sige,
just to be
sige.
clear guys, hindi po ako straight.
Uy!
Although, yeah, kaya magtataka kayo, bakit sila mag-i-invite ng mga straight for the experiences? Again, just to make it clear, we're not straight. So, yeah, you guys could get first-hand experiences from us. So, basically, one negative experience I've had is that since I am bisexual, and supposedly, kasi, you know guys, with a girl-to-girl relationship, there's always, tinatanong ng mga heteros, like,
Yeah.
sino yung lalaki sa inyo?
Yeah.
Sino yung babae sa inyo? Like, who's more dominant and stuff? Like, just to be clear guys, if you are, per se straight, it's actually not good to ask
Yes.
couples those
Totoo.
type of questions. And, it's kind of a negative experience for me. Kasi like, I would say na I'm the dominant one in the relationship, but like that doesn't mean that I need to be very masculine,
Yes.
right? Sean knows that I am very feminine. Sean's actually my makeup artist every time we have competitions and such. And I wear very feminine clothes most of the time, but sometimes like this, kunyari now, very chill vibes. Some would say that this is a very masculine vibe, but for me naman, I'm just wearing clothes that I want to,
Feel comfortable?
Yes.
represent myself with.
Correct.
Kung gusto ko maging babae, babae ako. Gusto ko maging masculine ako. And it's really very common, especially with my parents. They would say na, bi siya. And I was like, yeah, she's bi. And then they're gonna say, so tomboy yan. So parang ako,
Yeah.
with girls, pag bi, lesbian agad, tomboy na agad. Which is, it's kind of an issue nowadays. And I would hope na, yun nga, na mabago ito. Na parang when you express yourself or when you're in that community, anyone can be who they want to be. And they don't need to stick with norms. Like, kunyari, you're lesbian, you should be masculine. So, yun lang naman on my part. That's one of the negative experiences and
Great answer, Jay. Very good answer.
sure, maganda tayo dito.
Ako naman, nung senior high kasi, I was experimenting what I want to express myself. And may parang friend kami ni Dom na in-invite kami for a birthday party. Tapos sa bar yun. Tapos parang I was in that era siguro na parang gusto kong ma-experience feeling magsuot ng ng pambabae. So, parang super simple lang ang sinuot ko nun. I wore pants, I wore like yung sock na sapatos, yung sa Balenciaga. Wow!
Balenciaga si
Pero tapos nagsuot ako ng black na tube nun. Tapos, I was very conscious of what I was wearing. So, I bought an extra jacket just so na kapag kahit mainit, parang may safety net ako.
yeah.
So, parang hindi ko siya sinuot ng nakataas yung zipper eh. Parang nakababa siya, pero cover up siya, pero you can tell na naka-tube ako noon.
Yes.
Tapos, ang suot, naka-full glam pa ako noon eh. Naka-falsies, naka-red lipstick, whatsoever. Tapos, natapos na yung party, nakauwi na sila Dom, nagsusober up na yung iba. Tapos ako, iniintay ko yung ride ko pa uwi. Tapos may mga group of boys na dumaan sa akin. Especially ako na, number 1, gabi. Number 2, ako lang mag-isa. Number 3, bakla ako noon. Ay, noon?
No, hindi ka kaya
Hindi, bakla ako. So, parang any group of men or teenagers, natatakot ako. And especially at that night, kasi yung suot ko medyo revealing, tapos nagtanggal na ako ng jacket kasi ang init. So, sabi ko, shit, paano to? Ako lang mag-isa. Tapos, dumaan sila. Tapos, parang, I recall it vividly. Ang sabi nila, ay, may lawet. Narinig ko yun. Hindi ko na dapat papansinin. Pero, ang lapit ng pagkabulong. Kasi pagkadaan sa akin. It's as if na binulong yun directly to me. Not to the friend group. So, parang sabi ko, shit, ano ba naman to? Parang, alam mo yun, parang, yun na nga, aside from the fact na I'm a bigger body person. Na-call out pa yung gender ko. So parang for me, parang na-burst yung bubble ko na, kahit na yung environment ko, very accepting sila sa kung ano ako and how I wish to express myself. Laganap pa rin in society yung mga ganun. Tapos, I remember then, may time na na-catcall ako. And take note, I was wearing a uniform.
Yeah.
I was wearing a uniform. Naglalakad ako papunta sa Macau. Tapos, hindi ko lang sasabihin kung anong sinabi, pero it was gender-based. Kasi, ang unang sinabi sa akin, hoy bakla. Di ba, kapag sinabing, parang kasi, we're in a society, nung before, di ba, parang pag sinabing bakla, derogatory. Pero right now, yung mga members ng queer
Uy, bakla!
Oo, di ba? Parang, nire-reclaim na nila yun.
Yes.
Pero at that time, parang nadurog yung puso ko. Kasi, yun, group of girls yun. So, parang,
That's sad.
di ba, ang lungkot lang. So, parang, parang yung nag-catcall sa akin, they were surrounded by a group of girls. So, parang, ang lungkot lang na, na ganun yung nangyayari. Up until now, hindi ko parang right now kasi I'm still in this bubble na hindi ako naka-experience ng any form of discrimination. Pero, I have this fear na every time that I would go out feminine presenting, parang lagi akong may dala na extra na damit. kailangan may dala ako na pambura ng makeup. Yung gano'n, parang yung mga, it's very simple, pero ang laki ng impact nun sa buhay ko na kailangan ko pang magdala ng extra na gamit every time I want to express myself freely. Out of fear na baka ganun yung mangyari
that's
sa
so true. Kasi kahit ako, I know I said I wear feminine clothes, masculine clothes. Pero whenever I wear masculine clothes, I'm still really scared. Like, alam niyo yun na, if you guys know this, you guys are my friends, whenever we go out, masculine clothes. Kasi parang chill, tapos parang yung nasa safe space ako eh. Pero pag nandun ako sa other places, I would really wear feminine clothes. Pero kahit minsan na gusto kong mag-mask clothes, hindi ko magawa out of fear na parang I am not in my safe space right now.
Oo, totoo.
Other people could whisper or judge me. It's either marinig ko or hindi. Parang feeling ko na yung pride ko talaga madudurog. So, yun nga, it's very sad that it's still happening right now sa society.
It's very wonderful insights and of course very sad we sympathize, we empathize with you guys. Pero we thank you for that information kasi ayun nga, na-prove natin yung point natin na SOGSC-based discrimination is still very much prevalent. However, kahit sabihin natin naging tolerant ng Philippines. And now you heard it, folks, can you present accounts of discrimination talaga? Very much present, parang ako lang sa mga klase ni Mansenia.
Uy! Shout out po!
Bola pa to si Dong, but ayun nga, I hope yung mga kwento nila is maging testament on how SOGI-based discrimination, katulad ng sabi ni Dom, ay present talaga na need natin talagang i-combat through the SOGI-SC Equality Bill.
So, last na, para hindi tayo maubusan ng oras. Isang misconception na nakikita ko kasama daw sa sinusulong ng SOGI-SC Bill is yung same-sex marriages and unions.
Uy, Jay! Kakasal na tayo,
Uy.
Jay!
Uy, pero fake news yun. Kasi sa recent SOGI-SC Bill ngayon sa 19th Congress, wala namang minention regarding sa same-sex unions and marriage. Pero sa future siguro, yes, maganda na meron yan kasi nga, love is love.
Yes. Guys,
Hindi masama
Love is love, love is
Love
love.
sim. Pero yun nga, sa current proposed SOGI-SC Bill, wala talaga na.
But I think it's really great that we're having these discussions, and hindi talaga natin maiwasan naisipin na what now? Like, what if mapasa nga itong SOGI-SC Bill? Ano ba feeling yung mangyayari?
Feeling ko kasi hindi naman natin immediately mararamdaman yung effects. After all, kahit mapasa yung mga policy na to, we still have to consider yung institutional capacity and yung ability ng state to execute and implement it. Oh, grabe. Public policy and analysis here. Pero,
So true. Tapos siguro considering na din yung policing system natin and karamihan ng mga law enforcers, sila mismo kasi nagdi-display ng homophobia or homophobic tendencies at times. So, mahirap i-gauge yung overall impact talaga nun.
Yeah, ayun yung parang discussion natin regarding state abuse, di ba? Like, talagang yung mga state yung ipapakita pa ng homophobic tendencies. Pero ako guys, personally, I want to remain optimistic talaga. And I think yung SOGI-SC Equality Bill, it's a step in the right direction. At talagang sobrang daming doors at discussions na mabubuksan once mapasa natin yung bill.
Social implications pa lang actually sobrang dami eh. Tignan mo, tulad nga yung sinabi nila kanina, majority of Philippine-based companies ayon sa survey ay wala pa rin SOGI-inclusive policies. Pero meron
Kuya, mamaya ng balot.
Pero meron naman kasing companies that are foreign-owned operating here sa Philippines na may implementation ng SOGI positive policies.
siguro ngayon nga yung isa sa immediate reaction na mararamdaman ng mga LGBTQIA plus community members is yung finally, yung workplace na isang essential part ng buhay natin, magiging safe na rin to express their identity and most especially themselves. Ayun pa, hopefully sana nga din, yung mga Filipino companies, dahil nga nasa Pilipinas tayo, sana sila na yung maging mas accepting pa.
Yeah, nakakalungkot lang talaga. It's very sad na nangyayari to. Kasi pag-isipin talaga natin, dapat talaga mayroon tayong right to be who we are. And talagang, kung titignan mo, sa 1987 Constitution, talagang dun base yung SOGI Equality Bill kasi dapat talaga meron tayong equal rights no matter who we are talaga.
Tama ka dyan, Kuis. Pero dapat din isipin na natin how SOGI-SC will address yung violence against women and the queer community. And also other acts na nagdi-discriminate ng marginalized communities dito sa Philippines.
Without a doubt naman, I think we can all agree na yung SOGSC, sobrang importante niya. It is essential and honestly, very much long overdue na siya. But at the same time, pag nagbabasa ako ng mga tweets or social commentary, napapansin ko na merong mga non-constructive exchanges online.
Siguro I just would like to echo yung sinabi ni Sean. Medyo organic, pero I think it was along the lines na we can't accept what we don't understand. Kasi nga, feeling ko, talagang hindi naging accepted talaga yung SOGSC kasi walang masyadong information regarding it. Hindi na-educate sa maayos yung mga tao. Tapos meron pa tong phenomenon tayo nakikita ngayon na sinasabi mga sa Twitter, di ba? Na hindi na i-explain na maayos kasi yung mga informed na tao regarding the topic, hindi nila na-explain na maayos. Or in a sense, ayaw nila i-explain kasi parang ang condescending talaga nila makipag-converse with other people na hindi talaga nila, And I guess it's kind of understandable kasi parang hate breeds hate pa kumbaga. Parang pag nakita lang ng hateful comments, diba? Parang hindi naman to i-entertain, ang hateful ng tao. So I'm just gonna be condescending. Which is not a really good way on how we can be more SOGSC, friendly.
Pero i-add din siguro natin doon yung misconceptions regarding the implications of SOGSC when it comes to religious institutions and other systems of faith. Kasi another factor or conversations that I think many people will have if or after mapasang SOGSC.
Pinaka-important talaga sa akin. Sorry.
Pagod.
I think pinaka-important talaga yung overall legal and institutional protection that the SOGSC bill will give us. Kasi honestly, it is so frustrating din to see na how people have been discriminated against and have received unequal opportunities dahil lang sa SOGSC.
Feeling of, gusto ko lang siguro i-complement yung mga local government na nakita natin na nag-implement ng local ordinances. Such as nga sa Quezon City, since 2003 pa lang, meron na silang anti-discrimination ordinance. Yun yung actually first of our country, leading the way for other local governments to enact their own ordinances to protect na yung mga queer Filipinos from discrimination. Pero yun nga, wala nang ngipin itong mga local ordinance.
Yung same-sex couples, they don't enjoy the benefits of civil union at all. Kaya a possible
So
effect.
true.
Diba?
So true.
Parang
Ay!
hindi siya outcome directly ng SOGSC. Pero pwede siya maging after.
Parang magiging leeway siya for same-sex union.
It's a good implication.
Kasi pwede magkaroon ng landslide effect.
Yes.
Wow, landslide effect!
So, tipong dahil may precedent na for inclusivity, yung same-sex marriage bills could be passed that will enable same-sex couples to enjoy the same benefits. Na ang key difference lang talaga, yung name ng bill. Separating itself from religious sectors na nagre-preserve ng sanctity of marriage.
Yun nga, in extension to that, I think maganda rin na, yung tulad naman sa landslide effect, na another possible outcome nga is magkaroon pa tayo ng mga more bills na talagang mas may niche ba na na equitable access and rights. So, ang naisip ko rito talaga is yun sa Quezon City. Kasi meron silang initiative regarding queer couples na yung healthcare decisions, di ba? Mas meron silang tinatawag na right to care card na through that, meron yung couples, pwede nilang include yung partners nila as beneficiaries din sa mga life insurance policies nila. So as much, parang from the SOGSC anti-discrimination, pag naging law siya, magpapave ng way natin. Talagang mas inclusive talaga din mo, di ba? Very niche yun, life insurance policies, right?
Uy, bakang usapang polsay. We can add it, guys.
But it all boils down na talaga sa presence na isang national legal framework or ito.
Yep.
Or QC nga, yung isang example na what we could be in terms of legislation if we are obligated by law to push for inclusivity. Pero ulit yung sinabi mong quote kanina daw? Yung about...
Sinabi ni Sean?
Yeah, yung quote.
Yeah, we can't accept what we don't understand.
So, kailangan rin talaga na despite the presence of a national legislation, legally obligated sila maging inclusive. Pero syempre, kasama na doon yung training and proper education doon sa mag-i-implement ng mga batas na yun. Kasi nga, one hurdle na nakita namin sa QC, walang implementing rules and regulations, walang ngipin. Parang, nasulat yung batas, pero wala rin willing mag-implement.
Kasi ay nitip na yung sa GSC Equality Bill. Matatagalan pa siguro siyang maipasa kasi ang daming humaharang eh. So, maybe yung local governments mag-start, so di ba meron na sa QC, meron na sa Manila. Pero kasi hindi nila ginagamit lahat ng budget nila for gender and development kasi nakita ko siya sa COA reports na
Sige, nagpunta sa
research.
So yan, ang laki ng unutilized budget for gender and development. Siguro dapat yung local governments, tutukan nila yan. And I also think na lahat tayo, we should be more sensitive and huwag natin i-judge agad, lalo na yung mga queer people.
Yeah, guys, don't judge us.
We are still human. Yun lang.
Gusto ko lang din i-echo yung sinasabing misconception kanina na pinag-usapan ng aking tropa. Na so GSC is like very expensive and like very repetitive, tsaka parang it takes a lot of time. And to that, I would just like to say na hindi dapat lahat tayo equal. That's like given inherent right to us and like no amount of difference and no amount of talaga na dapat na would like nag-warrant na hindi sila mabigyan ng right. So like dapat talaga magput tayo ng effort doon, magput tayo ng resources, all that. So yun lang. Ikaw, Umi.
Siguro, ang masasabi ko na lang eh, kahit ilang beses pa tayo magpa-educate na para sa lahat ng Soul GSC, yun pa rin talagang number one ng lahat na sa pagpasa nito. Parang yung nag-viral dati na Senate hearing na paano naman ako, paano kami? Nakailang revisions na ng pangalan and ng contents yung bill na yan para ma-emphasize na para sa lahat to. Hindi pa rin siya tumatatak sa utak ng mga dapat magsulat para sa atin or magpasa ng batas para sa safety natin. So siguro, ayun.
Kaya nga, yun guys, I hope you guys learned something from this discussion. I hope you guys learned from this podcast. And we're gonna discuss more on our next episodes.
So ayan, with all that has been said, we hope that you guys learned something from our podcast episode today, and we will see you on our next episode next week. Bye guys!
Bye guys!